Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 84 of the Best Day Ever Crafting podcast. My name is Trish, and I can be found on Instagram and Ravelry as Tie-Dye Diva. Show notes for this episode and past episodes can be found in the Ravelry group. It is also called the Best Day Ever Crafting podcast. You can also find me on Instagram as _fibertree. That is the location where I post lots of content about planning and journaling and art journaling and other creative things that I like to do as it relates to paper crafting. So I want to extend an extra special welcome if this is your very first time here viewing the podcast. It is primarily a knitting and crochet podcast, but occasionally there will be sewing, and I am so excited to share with you a new, or I won't say a new to me craft, but a craft that I have resumed again, and I'll tell you a little bit about that just shortly. So before we get into the making, we do have a little bit of admin. I have a prize to give away, and I just realized that it's in the room. Excuse me. Hold on. Cash. Sorry about that. Cashmere decided to sit on top. There wouldn't be a podcast without shenanigans. Anyway, Cashmere, whose ear you can see in the shot because he is a huge attention hoarder, Cash. Mommy doesn't have a lot of time to podcast today, so you really have to cooperate so we can get this done, okay? Anywho, what was I saying? We have a prize giveaway. Last week I shared a project that I was working on, and let me just grab it. It is the Beach Pebbles. I'm calling it the Beach Pebbles cowl. It is on the it's on the Plymouth Yarns website. Let me double check, make sure that, yeah, Plymouth, it's a free pattern on Plymouth Yarns website, and it features this really beautiful yarn here called Beach Pebbles. Now I'm working with a new phone today that is in cinematic mode. So, oh, there we go. So there's a nice shot of the ball band. And there's the yarn. So it's this really, really interesting yarn. It's 84% Peruvian Pima cotton and 16% fine merino wool. And I'm guessing that the little lighter blips are the merino wool, but it's a really, really interesting yarn, really fun to work with. And the Beach Pebbles cowl, it's really simple. You start out with about 1 inch of ribbing, and then you every time you get to one of those great blips, you purl that stitch, and then you end up with this really cool textured fabric. Hold on 1 second. Looks like this. So really, really nice. And so because I was enjoying this project so much, I decided to gift 2 balls of this yarn to a podcast viewer. And like what I was going to say before Cashmere interrupted me is I left the yarn in my craft room. But the colorway I will be giving away, along with a little notions pouch filled with some goodies for your knitting and crafting. I may throw a couple of sticker sheets in there too from my shop. That prize goes to, we had 47 comments, and random number generator chose comment number 46, which belongs to Nadia P 1986F. She is also known as the Busy Knitter on YouTube. She has a podcast also. So Nadia, congratulations. Please reach out to me on Ravelry with your address, and I will send your prize to you. So if you are watching and you are a maker, perhaps you dye yarn or fiber or some other creative endeavor, and you'd like to donate a prize to the podcast, just reach out to me on Ravelry or Instagram, and we can chat about that. I feel like that was a lot of talking just in admin, and I have so many things to share with you. No finished objects, quite a lot of things that are almost finished. I'm going to pick up the big lump of fur here because he's just sitting here in front of me begging for attention. So this is Cashmere. Cash, you're going to sit here and listen for a minute while Mommy chats. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about knitting, no crochet, even though I have been working really hard on my my granny stripe crochet blanket. I'll share that with you in the next podcast. It's coming along really well. I've been trying to make an effort to work on it every Sunday. So I'll show that to you on the next episode. So today we're primarily going to talk about knitting and a new, not new to me, but a craft that I have resumed doing, and that is spinning. I haven't spun on my spinning wheel, which happens to be an Ashford Kiwi. It's the original Ashford Kiwi wheel. I haven't spun in, I want to say at least 5, maybe even 6 years. And I just recently picked it back up and I absolutely love it. So I cannot wait to share with you some of the progress I've made on my spinning. So let's get right into it. I'll stop jabbering. So I already showed you one work in progress, which is the Beach Pebbles cowl. Still working on this in between other projects. It's very mindless knitting. So I can throw this in my bag and take it with me in the car while Ray is driving. And this is hanging out in one of my By the Lakeside project bags. One of my favorites from Sandy By the Lakeside, who also has a lovely podcast. I'm sure you already watched it, but if you have not, then you definitely should. Very relaxing vibe, and she does a lot of, she's a multi-crafter also, besides being an amazing bag maker. So yes, love this. Next up, I have been working really hard on my Lento sweater. I've been calling this the Lento sweater, but I believe the O is pronounced as A. And I heard that from someone's podcast. I can't remember who it was. Who was it? Can't remember who it was, but she's from Finland, so she would definitely know the correct pronunciation. So we're gonna call it the Lento sweater. And here I am. I actually have gotten all the way down to the ribbing, and I really hoped that I had would have it released from the bottom, but not actually. I'm binding off, so I have just a few more stitches to bind off, and then the bottom is done. I really got to get used to this camera. But anyway, here it is. It's so lovely. I don't know whether you can tell how light and lofty it is. It's so beautiful, and I really enjoyed knitting this. This is a very straightforward, beginner friendly pattern, very well written. The most complicated thing, I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, is the neckline. As you can see, it features this folded neckline. So I haven't tried this on yet, but I'm envisioning that when I put this on, the neckline is just going to sit up just slightly, which is really lovely. I knit this, I believe it's going to hit me like right, maybe about 3 inches below my belly button, which is really nice. A lot of the sweaters I've been making recently have been somewhat short or cropped. So this is going to be a really cozy sweater with really good coverage. And I am using, let me show you the yarns that I'm using. So the main color is this here. There we go. So this is Madelinetosh Merino Light with copper glitter. And you can see all the colors, blues, purples, there's like some rosy gold, pinks, there's even some green, if you can see that. Really, really, really nice. It's absolutely beautiful. The sparkle, the copper sparkle is really subtle, but you can definitely see it. And you probably didn't see it in the sweater when I held it up, but it's there. It's there. And like I said, it's really, really subtle. And then I'm holding that, so I'm holding 2 strands double. I'm holding that Tosh Merino light with mohair. And my first thought when I started knitting this was that I wanted it to be a gradient, but honestly, it knit up so quickly. I really didn't have time to gradiate this project. And so, is that a word, gradiate? You know what I'm trying to say. This is going to be an interesting episode. Okay, so I decided to just go ahead and knit it without doing a gradient. And no, we're not going to do a gradient. We're just going to knit it with the Tosh Merino light. And I've been using mohair from my stash. I have used at least, I think, just 2 colors that complement the colors in the Tosh Merino light. So I started out with this. This here is Stranded Dye Works. And it was actually left over from this project that I'm wearing here, which is the Love Note sweater by Tin Can Knits. Then I went into a little darker color, which is this here. And this was dyed up by Dapper Dye Works. And this is showing up a little light when I bring it closer. This is more so a little darker, and then even darker this one here. This is Knitting for Olive Silk Merino Mohair Lace. So as you can see, these are very similar. So it is a gradient, but definitely not as, it's very extremely subtle. If you look really, really closely, you can tell. But I've really, really enjoyed knitting this. And even though these are 3 different colors of mohair, I don't have any lines or areas where you can see where I changed the colors of the mohair. And I think that actually when I hold it like this, you can see how it's just a little lighter here and a little darker towards the bottom. But it blends in really, really well, I think. And I've just really enjoyed it. It's literally flying off of the needles. And if I wasn't the type of person who works on multiple projects at one time, this would be done by now. But really, really enjoying it. I'm going to finish the body later on today and get the sleeves going this weekend. And hopefully when I record again in 2 weeks, I will have a sweater finished. I'm also participating in 2 make-alongs. So the Grocery Girls are doing a raglan along. And so I'm going to enter my sweater into that knit along. And also Casey of the Young Folk Knits podcast is doing the Bougie Sweatshirt make-along. So I will be entering my sweater, double dipping into that knit along as well. So really, really enjoying this. It knits up so fast on that US 10 needle. So I'm really, really enjoying it so much. And this is hanging out in my pink hazel project bag. That's going to need a really good brushing because it's got mohair all over the black, but beautiful, beautiful bag. Next up, let's talk about some socks. So, first pair of socks is hanging out in this adorable project bag by Mountain State Stitches. And these are my Rise socks, another pattern by Tin Can Knits. So one sock is complete. This is just a basic cuff down sock pattern that features this really, really interesting garter panel in the front. And this is the progress I've made on sock number 2. Remember the last time I recorded, I shared with you that I had knit this sock, I bound it off and woven the ends, only to realize that I forgot to turn the heel. So I had to rip completely back, but I'm almost there. I've got about 5 more rows to go before I do the toe, and these will be completed. This yarn is at Haynes House. This is their one of their fingering weight bases. I promise when I show these finished on the next podcast, I'm going to tell you exactly what this sock base is. But I do know the color is Passages of Hope, Freedom. And it's based on the cover of Terry's, one of her most recent books that she wrote that I have yet to finish. So really, really love this. I love how this is like striping, a very subtle stripe, even though it's not a self-striping yarn. It is pulling very, very nicely. Same thing on this sock here. So these will hopefully definitely be finished by the next time I record. Sock number 2 is this lovely piece of work here. So I was able to complete sock number 1. This yarn is Earth Yarns sock, and the pattern that I'm using is by Kay Litton of the Crazy Sock Lady podcast. This is her basic cuff down magic loop sock pattern. That is not the name of it. It is called, it'll be in the show notes, but it is Kay's just very basic sock pattern for a cuff down sock. And this yarn has just been an absolute joy to work with. As you can see, it's striping, but it's also gradient. So this green here ends up into this beautiful yellow. And then the purple that it started with, this really pretty like royal blue purple, is gradiating. There's that word again. I'm gonna look it up. Maybe it is a word. It's gradiating into this lighter purple. So from that royal blue to burgundies and reds, just an absolute joy to knit these. These kind of like flew off of the needles. So sock number 2 is on the way. So I got sock number 2 cast on, and that's the progress I've made on sock number 2. And this is what the yarn looks like in a ball. Really, really pretty. So I'm not going to make it into that really pretty minty green there in the center. So these, I have more left over from sock number 1. And of course, there'll be more left over from sock number 2. And this will go into my granny stripe blanket bag. And so yeah, really, really enjoying it. This is also hanging out in another By the Lakeside project bag by Sandy by the Lakeside. Really, really cute. So moving right along, I have 2 new cast-ons since I last recorded that I will share with you now. And you know, I never did talk about the setup here. It is really, really overcast and cloudy here today. And if this is your first time here, I live just outside of Washington, D.C., along with my husband and 2 twin sons in the state of Maryland. I'm thinking faster. I'm talking faster than I think, or am I thinking faster than I talk? Anywho, I was talking about the weather and the setup because my craft room is way in the back of our home, and it's really dark and dreary today, and the lighting would have been really, really bad. So I decided to just record in my living room today. And this is our big window here in the living room. And I've got a little bit of light on this side. So I definitely have this split thing going on. And I feel like it's getting even darker, but hopefully it's not too distracting. So that is why I'm in a different setup today. And who knows, it may stay this way. I may be back in the craft room. We'll see. Back to the making. So the next project I'm going to share with you is just making me so, so happy. We've had the weirdest winter. It has been, last week we had an 80-degree day. It was so warm outside. My husband and I decided to go have lunch. And we ate lunch outside, and it was almost too hot to have lunch outside in the dead of winter in February. Crazy, crazy. So we really haven't had much of a winter, and because of that, I'm just over it. I'm ready for spring. If we're not going to have a real winter, if we're not going to have snow, we've had a dusting of snow, but no real snow. So if winter's not going to come, I'm ready for spring, okay? So I say all that to say I decided to cast on a Saturday Shrug, which is a pattern by Jackie Rose. She is the one half of the Caddy Jacks Knits podcast. I decided to knit it up in really beautiful spring colors. Although these colors aren't just for spring, but it just reminds me of spring and summer vibes. So even though this is super, super woolly, I'm gonna take this right on into the spring. It's gonna be perfect to just throw in my bag if we go out to eat at a restaurant. Spring and summer, the AC is cranking, and I hate being cold. So I always have something for my neck all year round. Now, I am knitting this out of DK weight as well as worsted weight yarns held with a strand of mohair. And I've got yarn from all over the place. This orange here is Neighborhood Fiber Company, and that's being held with a Neighborhood Fiber Company mohair. The pink is Honeybee Knits, and that's being held with a Line mohair lace. This beautiful blue is Plucky Knitter Trusty, which is a worsted base, and that is being held with a Dapper Dye Works Fluffy yarn, which is alpaca. I think it's alpaca merino, but you can see how it really is fluffy. So this row that I'm knitting now is definitely a heavier gauge than the pink and the orange, but it still looks so beautiful together. So those are 3 colors. The other 2 colors are, no, it's 1 more color, which is yellow. So after the blue, I'm gonna do this beautiful yellow. The yellow DK weight is some Millville project yarns. I'm not even sure they're still dyeing yarn anymore, but look how pretty that yellow is. So this is really nice. It's a nice stash busting project, which is really fun. And this yellow is also a Neighborhood Fiber Company mohair silk base. So all from stash. The only thing I had to purchase to complete this project was this Line lace silk mohair, because I didn't have a pink to work with the pink yarn that I had. So really excited about this. Really, really excited. I'm going to, all of these, the colors, the bases, the yarn dyers, everything is on my project page in Ravelry. So I'm going to link to it in the show notes, because it would take me forever to go through all of the names and all of the dyers. But really, really enjoying this. I'm still kind of apprehensive. I don't think this is going to fit over my shoulders, but we'll see. Will most likely be worn as a cowl. But again, we'll see. There's also an option to do a bulky weight Saturday Shrug. So after I'm finished with this one, I might decide to cast on for the bulky weight. But I'm not one who likes to have things. I don't think I would enjoy something that's on my shoulders like that, because I think I would feel constricted, but I've never tried it, so I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see if this goes over my shoulders. And again, if not, I may try to cast on for a bulky weight one. But again, Saturday Shrug by Jackie Rose. It's being knit up on a I'm using a US 10 needle, which I believe is a 6.0 millimeter. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so there's one more new cast on I want to share with you. And this is hanging out in this adorable bag that was gifted to me by Uncle Brian's Bags. Brian Haynes. Now he's the second half of the At Haynes House duo. Terry does the yarn, Brian makes the project bags, and this bag is amazing. I love it because it has a long handle, so I can do like a crossbody thing, and I love that I can like fold it over and it will sit just like this, so it almost works as like a little caddy type thing. It's got lots of pockets, lots of different size pockets, and there's even a zipper pocket on the inside, and there's this little logo tag. So very well made. You've got this little hook here, there's a hook here, a hook on this side. Lots and lots of features to this bag. So definitely check out Uncle Brian's Bags. Yeah, and I think they can be found on the At Haynes House website. Not completely sure about that, but again, I will link to all of these places in the show notes. So my final whip in knitting that I'm going to share with you is a sweater by Coco Knits, and it is called the Zoe cardigan. And let me see if I can pull up a picture of it. So here is a picture of the Zoe cardigan. Hopefully that's showing up okay. So as you can see, it is a really basic cardigan with elbow length sleeves, and it's knit in all garter stitch. It also features a
One moment.
I don't know what my electronics are doing today. Anyway, it also features an I-cord around the entire sweater, which finishes it off really, really nicely. So Coco Knits is having a make-along, which is really exciting. And a couple of my friends way on the other side of the country in Washington State asked me to join them in this make-along. Sending much love to you all. I did cast on my sweater, and I haven't made a lot of progress, but I will share with you what I have done. So this sweater is knit using the Coco Knits method, which is a top-down method of sweater knitting. So this is going to be, this is the back of this. This is the back neckline, and as you can see, it's kind of like sloping. So I'm doing some shaping for the back neck, and I'm not sure what comes next. Sometimes when I do a new to me technique, I tend to get overwhelmed, so I'm trying not to do that. If you've followed me for a while, you know I tend to stick to the really simple patterns with beautiful yarn. I like to let the yarn speak in really, really simple patterns. And this is simple, but the technique is new to me, right? So as Gigi Made It always says, it's not hard, it's new, right? So that's just keeps echoing in my mind. It's not hard, it's new. So this is the progress I've made thus far. And this is knit on a US 8 using a sport weight to fingering weight yarn. So it's knit at a very loose gauge. And the yarn that I'm using for this sweater is by Miss Babs. This was the show color for Maryland Sheep and Wool, I think about 2 years ago. And shame on me, I don't have the ball band with me. But again, I will create a project page so that you can see what the color is. But it's so beautiful. There's purples and neon greens and blues and like spring greens. It's just like a breath of spring sunshine. Look at that. So, so beautiful. So really looking forward to this project. A little nervous. Again, lots of new to me techniques, but not difficult at all. And Coco Knits has a ton of pattern support on YouTube. So I've already seen a couple of videos that have helped me thus far, and I'm pretty sure that there will be more that I will look into. So let's move on into something that I have been so excited about in the past couple of weeks. So I am back at my spinning wheel. I've very much been inspired by watching the Knit Girls and their spinning, Leslie and Laura, and also Drea Renee Knits, her podcast where she talks about her spinning journey and spinning for a sweater, which is just mind-blowing to me. When I first heard her talk about spinning enough yarn for a sweater, I was like, oh, that's nice for someone else. But now that I'm back at my wheel, I can totally see me in the future spinning for a sweater. So let me show you what I have done thus far. This is my little spinning basket that stays right here in the living room, right behind me. I keep everything enclosed in plastic because if I didn't, Cashmere would eat it. He is such a beloved weirdo in our family. He loves yarn, and when I say loves, he just goes crazy for it. I mean, he's sitting right here because he sees me pulling out all the projects and all the fiber and everything, and he's just totally into it. So this is the first braid that I was able to finish. Hopefully that's showing up. So these were singles that I spun, I can't even tell you how long ago. I want to say maybe 5 years ago. I had about 50 grams of a superwash merino from Nest Fibers, and I spun the singles on my electric eel wheel, and I guess life happened. As you guys know, a lot of life has happened in the past several years, and it just sat without me even finishing it. So when I went back to, gather all my fiber supplies, looking for bobbins, I found this bobbin that was already spun up. And so I decided as my first spinning project, I would chain ply it. So it's not a true 3-ply in the fullest sense of the meaning of a 3-ply, but it is a 3-ply that was chain plied. So I think I got about 180 yards, and if I had to guess, I would say it's about a DK weight. It's really light and squishy and fluffy, and it's going to be beautiful in some project, maybe a hat or maybe a cowl, but it's so lovely. It's so lovely. It's so soft and beautiful. So that's project number 1 of spinning. So when I finished that, I decided to go into one of my Nest Club fibers, and let me just make sure I tell you exactly what this is. Hold on. Going under my hand spun. So Again, this is from Nest Fibers, and this is the colorway for the month of November. It is called Making Spirits Bright, and that's what it looked like when it came to me. And this is what it looks like as a finished skein of yarn. As you can see, it's super fluffy and lovely. Now, I had some trials and tribulations with this spin. So the other skein that I showed you, this had already been spun in the counterclockwise, which, oh, I forget which one is Z and which one is S. So before I go on, if there are any spinners out there, please let me know. Let me know what some of your favorite spinning resources, YouTube channels, books are, because I think I'm falling down a lovely rabbit hole, and I want to learn as much as I can. And sometimes I don't always know the terms to use. I just know I love spinning. So I spun 2 bobbins, and usually, what I wanted to do was I wanted to do a 2-ply, just a basic 2-ply yarn. And usually what you do, you have your 2 bobbins and you spin them in the same direction. Usually I spin in the clockwise direction. But for some reason, I spun 1 clockwise and 1 counterclockwise, which means I couldn't do a 2-ply. So what I did was, again, I chain plied each bobbin separately, and then I joined them before I put them on the niddy noddy and wound them. So, and let me just show you what a niddy noddy looks like in case there aren't spinners. So this is the tool that you use to wind your yarn off of the bobbin once it's spun. So I chain plied each separately, and then I wound it onto the niddy noddy together, and this is what I ended up with. So this is definitely really thick and thin. I definitely think I overplied this in several places. In the chain ply, everything worked out really, really well. I do think this is definitely a yarn that is workable in knitting. If I find that there's too much twist in it, I can always use it for weaving or some other project, but I love it. It's absolutely beautiful. And I believe this is Rambouillet. Yes, this is Rambouillet wool. After finishing that, I decided to go to my I think this is my January club from Nest Fibers. And let's see, do I have this bag that is came in? Let me see. So this color is Love Struck. So I've already got half of that 4 ounces spun, and definitely with the practice, I can see how my spinning has definitely improved. This is definitely not as spun as tightly as the Making Spirits Bright was. So really, learning how to adjust my tension and uptake and all those other things that you have to learn. And this is what I have to spin thus far. So this is about 1/4 of the braid. The other 1/4 is on the spinning wheel. And yeah, so really beautiful. And this, I believe, this is Polworth, 100% Polworth. Those beautiful reds, pinks, and blues, so lovely. And then finally, the other project that I am working on is this here. This doesn't want to focus. Come on, focus. So there we go. So as you can see, this looks like a pretty, there we go, a pretty jumbled mess, but it's actually really lovely. So this was my first attempt at doing long draw. And again, for if anyone is out there that doesn't know a lot about spinning, I will link a video which explains what the long draw process is. But basically, it's a way of drafting the wool while you're spinning it in really, really long increments, which does a couple of things. It puts a lot of air into the yarn, so it ends up being really light and lofty, but you're also able to spin a lot quicker. So definitely not perfect. Definitely got to do a lot of more work on my long draw technique, but I really enjoyed spinning this also. Again, this is all spun on my Kiwi, except for this one, which is on the electric eel wheel. And the one I just showed you, this one here, this is from the monthly Bat Club from Knit Spin Farm. And she calls this color Evening Thunderclouds. A really interesting combination of wools. It's a Cheviot, Shetland, Gotland, and there's some Angelina, Silk Noel, and Sari Silk. So really, really beautiful fiber here, the way she blended this on a drum carder, no doubt. So I've got 3 more of these to spin up. And then I will do a 2-ply with that. So I'm really, really looking forward to this, getting this one done. So as you can see, having so much fun, so much fun with spinning. Sorry for the crinkling, but I gotta put everything in plastic again because Cashmere would just have a field day with it if I didn't. Okay, so before I close, I do have a couple of stash enhancements that I will share with you. So the first thing I'll share with you is a kit that I purchased from the Knitting Place in New York. And it is a kit to knit the small version of the Pressed Flowers cowl. And here it is. How lovely is that? So it's one hank of the Spin Cycle Dream State yarn. The color is Vibe Check. And honestly, I bought this because I love the colors and I love the name of the yarn. Vibe Check, check your vibe, right? Okay, and then they paired this with this lovely Taj DK from Madeline Taj, and the color is Leopard. So I love these together for the Pressed Flowers cowl, and I also love them separately for possibly other projects. So we'll see what I end up using those for. The Farmer's Daughter Sock Squad yarn came in, and this is it. So lovely. This is the club colorway for March, and the color is California Poppy. Really pretty. I also ordered again from the Lamb & Kid, and she had an update on her Birdie base, which is a light fingering of 74% alpaca, 26% silk. So I picked up these 2 lovely colors because they're just so beautiful. Definitely see a theme going on here. I love blues and greens. I love all colors, but right now, blues and greens have my heart. Airmail is this color, and this beautiful pink is Veronica. To go along with that, I picked up these 2 skeins of the Lamb & Kid Kiddo, and this color is 3 Dog Night. And it's a really, really dark blue, almost black. It's so beautiful. So this is 80% merino, 15% nylon, 437 yards each. And I was thinking that the 3 of these would be so beautiful in a colorwork sweater. So that was my thinking with that purchase. And finally, I decided to really treat myself to this project bag by Spin Cycle. My good friend Tasha had one of these, and I've been wanting one ever since, but it took a while for Spin Cycle to get these back in. And I think this colorway, Tasha, what color is yours? Is it blue, gray? But the newer one is this beautiful magenta pink. And this bag features several, I don't want to say all, but a pretty good amount of the sweaters that have been knitted by some of our favorite designers using Spin Cycle yarn. So how special is that? So this is a collaboration between Hide and Hammer and Spin Cycle yarns. It is a very deep project bag. Deep and wide, which is awesome. Look how long that is. So definitely enough for a sweater quantity, or even a couple of projects if you're knitting on the go. And it's got this really cool feature with these beautiful, really thick, substantial handles here. And it's got the Hide and Hammer logo on one side and the Spin Cycle logo on the other side. So really excited to have this in my project bag stash. And I purchased it directly off of Spin Cycle. I think Do You Knit might possibly carry them. I'm not 100% on that. And I also didn't check to see if it is still available. But really excited about this bag. I cannot wait to use it. So I think I got through it all. And unfortunately, I don't have time for knit and chat again today, but I promise it will happen on the next episode. Yeah. I've also received some really good questions from you all on certain topics. And so as time allows, I will either address them in our Sit and Knit Together feature, or I will just record a whole another episode on any particular question that you ask that I may not be able to cover on the podcast. Shop update for the Fiber Tree will be coming very soon. I'm still recuperating from not being well a few weeks back, and just trying to get caught up on all the things and really trying to pace myself more than anything. But I have some really cute things in the works, especially for makers, so stay tuned for that, and a couple of new sticker sheets and collections also. So definitely stay tuned for those things. Thank you for your orders, thank you for your support, and thank you for being here with me as I ramble on about the thing I love so much. So again, if you are a spinner, let me know what your favorite spinning resources are. I would really appreciate that. So again, have so much joy in your making. Continue to stay safe and well. There's so many bugs and germs out there. So do whatever you need to do to keep you and your family safe and well. And I look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. Bye-bye.